Okay, so in order not to waste the time, let's move on, and then I'm recording, so I'll put it in the page for their use. Okay, so we have the sales figure. We go through the question, and this is our sales figure here, 9,000. So we have to check if we have return invoice in the question. It's always important to check if you have return invoice, and in this case, yes, we have return invoice. So our sales figure 9,000 should be under the second column. Then we'll go ahead to less the return invoice of 300. And so when we less that, we get the net sales, which is 8,700. Good. So that is what we did yesterday. So I want to believe you are all following. Okay. Now, when you finish, the next thing is to go and look for your cost of sales. Okay. So you put the title cost of sales or less cost of sales. And that you all know currently that you need to begin with your opening stock. So your opening stock, very, very important. So the opening stock is this stock at 1st January, as you know some of these things. So I'm just rushing through. Okay, so 5,000, you put it there. And then you add purchases, but again, you acknowledge that you need to work out for your carriage invoice and return outwards on the purchases. So we write our add purchases. But in this question, we have carriage inwards and return outwards here. So we need to put the purchases at the first column, and the purchase figure is 2,000. And then we less the return outwards and add the carriage inwards. So return outwards of 200 and carriage inwards of 150. So when we do that, we get the net purchases. The net purchases. And this net purchases would be added to the opening stock under the second column. So you see, you really have to follow the format gradually so that you know where to put this figure, where not to put this figure in that order. So let's do the calculation. 2,000 minus 200 plus 150. That is going to give us 1,950. And so that is our net purchases. We add it to the opening stock. So this 1,950 will be added to the 5,000. And that's going to give us 6,950. And that is the cost of goods available for sale. If there are questions, you draw my attention and ask me. Okay. Good. So you add your net purchases to the opening stock and you get your cost of goods available. When you get the cost of goods available, you know what to do next. You less the closing stock. You less your closing stock. Okay. So our closing stock, let's go through the question and pick it. Normally it's at the end of the question, or you see some 31st date assigned to it. So that's 2,550. Okay, when you less that, you get the cost of goods sold. Now here again, you have to be careful to check for any direct trading expenses, and that is wages. If the question has no wages or direct trading expense, then the cost of goods sold you get here will come under the third column. Okay, so pay attention to that one. In this case, we have the wages there in the question here, wages 120. So we'll put our cost of goods sold here, which is the 6,950 minus 2,550. We get 4,400. Then we can add the trading expense, which is just 120 cedis. So when you add, you now get the cost of sales. So the cost of sales should be pushed under the third column. Okay. So 4,400 plus 120, that's giving us 4,550. So you less this cost of sales from the net sales, and the figure you get is your gross profit or gross loss. In this case, a gross profit, because the cost is lesser than the sales income. So we have a gross profit. As simple as that. And that ends your trading account. Okay. Any question? Okay. Now let's continue with the profit and loss account. The profit and loss account is simply adding other income to your gross profit and lessen expenses. So that's all that you do in your gross profit. So in this case, we are to prepare the profit and loss account. So let me put the heading there. But before that, let me underline my figures, because it's very important to underline your figures as well. Okay. Okay. So that's our trading account. Let's go on with the profit and loss account for the year ended same 31st December 2002. So as I told you, this profit and loss account only continues the trading account by bringing in the gross profit or loss, and then you add other income, and then less operating expenses. Okay, so in this question, we had our gross profit to be 4,150. So we bring in that figure. Again, don't forget your currency. So let me move down a bit. Our currency is still Naira. So 1, 2, good. So we bring our gross profit, which is 4,180, and then we add other income. So you go through the question and fish out the other income. So here you are going to assist me, ladies and gentlemen. As you move through this trial balance, what other income do you see there? Yes, who is ready? Yes, I'm waiting for yes, Jacinda.
Please, I think discount received.
Discount received. Discount received. Thank you very much. Now, if the trial balance is given in this form where you have the debit column and the credit column, always look at the credit column for your income. Okay. And I think in the format, I stated the incomes for you. So they are discount received, income on investment or interest on investment, commission received, and then rent received. Now, the better clue is that you'll find them at the credit side of the trial balance. So in this question, at the credit side, you have sales, which we have already used in the trading account. Capital is not an income. It will go to the balance sheet. Loan is a liability. Creditors is a liability. Return outwards, we have used it. So you just have this 280, which is the discount received. So thank you very much, Madam Jacinda, for that wonderful contribution. So discount received of 280 Naira. So you just add it to your gross profit. And when you add the other income to your gross profit, you get the total income. For those who are a bit late, don't worry, I'm recording the lesson, so I'll share in the group so that you can follow. But basically, all we are trying to do is to solve the questions together so that we can move on with the adjustment, because the adjustments are of much importance to me now. Okay. So we have our total income, and then the next thing left is to get your expenses. So we are going to less operating expenses. Okay, so again, I think each and every one of you here should give me one expense when you go through the question. Okay, and another clue is that your expenses will be at the debit side. Okay, your expenses will be at the debit side. But make sure you don't pick an asset, because assets too have debit balances. So whoever is ready can go ahead and tell me the first expense. The first expense, who is giving that to me? Oh, why are you allowing Jacinda to do all the work alone? I don't like that too. I don't like that. Okay, Ekuya's hand is up. Auntie Ekuya, give me the first expense.
Please, rent.
Okay, so as you move down here, the first one is rent. Okay, thank you very much. The second one, who is going to give me the second one? As I go to write my rent. The second one. Kennedy Nanaya. Okay, Nanaya, the second expense.
Wages.
Yes, wages is an expense, but remember that we have used it in the trading account because it's a direct trading expense. So it can no longer go to the profit and loss account. So take note of that. And if you remember, I told you that wages will only go to the profit and loss account if you see this attached to it, wages and salaries. If you see wages and salaries, then that one will go to the profit and loss account as an operating expense. But if you see wages alone, it is a direct trading expense. So you add it to your cost of goods sold in the trading account. So take note of that. Okay, Sir Kennedy's, the next one.
Say telephone expense.
Okay, telephone expense. Thank you very much. So let me go and put these expenses as you have listed them. The first one was rent. The second is telephone expense. Okay. So let me pick the figures. Our rent is 600 and telephone expense is 260. Okay, so rent is 600. Telephone expense is 260. Thank you. So let's go back and get the other expenses. Who is ready to give me the next expense? Ekuya has spoken, Kennedy spoken, Jacinda spoken, Nana Yao spoken, or he would want to try again. And so Oforiwa and Mamiya, I'm waiting for you. The next expense, we've gotten up to this point, telephone expense. So as you go through, what is the next one? Oh, Benedicta just ran away. Mamiya, are you going to give me the next expense? I guess Mommy is dozing off behind her phone or something. Mommy, if you are not dozing off, let me hear you now. Okay, so Mommy is dozing off, so I'll see if Benedicta can assist me with the next expense. Okay, Sister Bene, I'm sure is also dozing off behind her gadget. So who is going to volunteer? Jacinda, okay.
Please, interest on loan.
Okay, interest on loan. Now, you see, she skipped the carriage inwards because it's an expense we have used in the trading account, so we don't have to repeat it again. So that's good. So we have the interest on loan of 100 Naira. So let's go and put that in the solution. Interest on loan. Now I'm taking my time with this topic because it cuts across majority of the topics that you are going to treat. So please pay attention to them and take it very serious. Okay, after the interest on loan, I think I can continue with the rest. The next one, premises. Premises is not an expense, it's an asset. So it will not come to the profit and loss account. Shop fittings is also an asset, will not come here. Debtors are assets, they will not come here. Carriage outwards is an operating expense that we need to acknowledge. Carriage outwards, or what we refer to as delivery expense, when you are carrying the goods out to go and sell. So carriage outwards, another expense. Let me check the figure, is 180. Okay, good. Then the next item, so after carriage outwards, we have bank. Bank is an asset, so will not come here. Cash is an asset, will not come here. Drawings is an expense, but will affect the capital of the proprietor, so it doesn't come here. Drawings does not come to the profit and loss account. It goes to the balance sheet. Okay. Then the next one from the drawings is the return inwards, which we have already used in the trading account, so we can't repeat it here. Then the last one is discount. That's the discount allowed of 150. So we put in the discount allowed 150. And that's all for the expenses that we have. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you are looking for expenses, focus on the debit side of the trial balance, but make sure you don't add any asset to it. Okay, because assets will go into the balance sheet. Thank you. So let's finish up with the profit and loss account by summing up the expenses. So these are my expenses. So I have 600 plus 260 plus 100 plus 180 plus 150. And that gives me 1,290. So that's my total expenses. So these total expenses, you see where I've pushed it. I've pushed it under the column where the total income is. Okay, so that I can less it from it and determine whether I'm getting a net profit or net loss. You get a net profit if the income is more than the expenses, and the opposite is a loss. So here we have 4,460 minus 1,290, and that's going to give us 3,170 net profit. Net profit. Any question? Any question up to this point? Okay, so we have less than 6 minutes for our first break. So I'll use that to go over the trading account and the profit and loss account again. And when we reconnect, we'll look at the balance sheet so that our next meeting, which will be hopefully next week, we start the adjustment. And the adjustment is another important, highly examinable in WASI. So we need to really brace ourselves for that. So gentlemen and ladies, if you are preparing your trading account, you know the items you need there. Please don't bring any item that you don't need here. It's normally your sales, return inwards, opening stock, purchases, return outwards, carriage inwards, purchases, closing stock, and then any trading expense wages. Now for your profit and loss account, you need your other income, and they are not plenty. The other incomes are not plenty. Discount received, commission received, rent received, interest or income. And you would find them at the credit side of the trial balance. Then you less your operating expenses. Expenses are also on the debit side, but always ensure that you don't add any asset to it. Okay. Any question? Now, just to motivate you in this area, please, the only sure way you can be smiling when you are dealing with this topic is by constant practice. You need to constantly solve questions, solve and prepare this trading and profit and loss account. The more you do it, the more you get familiar with the items, the more you get familiar with how to arrange them. Okay, if you don't practice, trust me, you will feel like a devil in the midst of angels. You are going to feel very uncomfortable. Okay, so please, any question for me before we end this session and reconnect to continue after 9 minutes? Any question? Some question. Are you guys mad at me because I complained you did not submit my assignments? Or you haven't eaten?